Let's go. We're fucking back. What the fuck is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Okay, we're in the OG setup. As you can see here, I'm home for the holidays, and this is gonna be a fucking banger because I'm gonna be showing you guys step by step exactly how I do webinars front to back, how I've generated millions of dollars on webinars. Okay, so as you can see here, this is just from one singular month with an old client of mine. So I don't know exactly how much money or revenue I've generated from webinars alone, but it's in the multiple millions for sure. And that's what this video is about. As you guys can see here, I've literally done webinars for some of the biggest names in the info space, people you've definitely heard of. So if you look on my channel, you'll see this video where I've consulted people on how to do webinars. I've given them my exact process. It's generated them and their clients hundreds of thousands of dollars. Look at this video on my channel, you'll know that I've also done webinars that have completely flopped, right? Really simple. Like I've literally done webinars that have generated $500,000 in a week, hands down. I've made multiple millions for my clients from webinars, but I've also done webbies where they completely flopped and I looked retarded. So like everything I say in this video is fucking battle tested from the bottom of my heart. I've been there, I've done that, and I put my balls on the table with webinars, and I've gotten a lot of data from it. Just to reiterate, I've done book a call webbies, I've done direct to checkout webbies, I've done paid ads webinars, I've done purely organic webinars, I've done mixes of both, cold traffic, warm traffic. Everything you're about to see is completely battle tested, and I wouldn't be telling you guys this information if I just didn't think it could help you. First, let's talk about why webinars. What even is the purpose of a webinar? When should you consider doing a webinar, and like why do they work so well? I'll start off with an example just to kind of articulate this to you. So imagine you go into Costco, right? And there's always those free teriyaki chicken samples. Really, like maybe you're at the mall and you go to the food court, there's always those fucking teriyaki chicken samples, right? So when you go into Costco or like a food court at the mall or anything like that, typically you pull up in need of something very specific. Like typically you have a list of all the things you want to get from Costco. You want to get some ground beef, you want to get some rice, you have a list. It's like a grocery list, right? You have a grocery list that you come in with. All of a sudden, someone comes out of nowhere and offers you free fucking teriyaki chicken. And so you're like, fuck it. Like, why not try it? It's free. Try the teriyaki chicken, and then you're like, wow, this shit is bussin'. And now you walk out of Costco with 2 bags of chicken that you didn't even plan on getting in the first place. So it's the exact same with webinars. Webinars are a great attraction funnel. Just think about it. We get to advertise the webinar as a free class. Like we get to present the audience with 90 minutes of a fuckload of value. We get to shift their beliefs. We get to get them in a buyer state of mind, and then we can pitch them something, right? So it's super powerful. Like people can come in with the impression that, hey, it's a free class. It's totally free value. And, you might call this manipulative or whatever, but this is just why they work so well, is because people come in with that impression and then they leave with something completely different after the pitch. That's the teriyaki chicken. You go to Costco, you're not even thinking about teriyaki chicken, right? You got a grocery list, you got something specific that you're coming there to get out of it. Guess what? You leave with 2 extra bags of teriyaki chicken because you went in and you got upsold, right? Webinars crush for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's really easy to get new leads. Like it's really easy to promote a webinar because once again, it's a free class. It's an attraction offer. Like when you can advertise something as, free, obviously, it's going to do better. Like you're going to have low ad costs whenever you're advertising to a webinar, and it just should generally be pretty easy to get, organically, like your audience super engaged and to get them to sign up for the webinar. Secondly, not only can you get new leads, but we can also get existing leads in the CRM who are unconverted to then show up and convert, right? So let's say you've been running a call funnel for 6 months, you've generated a couple $100,000 from it. It's like you're going to have a huge lead list of people on your email list, your SMS list, and just in your pipelines of people who no-showed, people who showed interest but just didn't convert for whatever reason. And now via things like email, SMS, etc., you can then invite these people to pull up to the webinar because it's a free class. It's completely, they're kind of unknowing of it. And you can then, have an opportunity to reconvert them and just capitalize on new revenue, right? And so third is that we're presenting them with a different conversion mechanism. So what I mean is, like, let's say you've been running a call funnel, right? Which most people do. They're very, like, I don't want to say they're saturated, but everybody's running a call funnel. Okay. And so most people, have either probably been burned by a call funnel, they've bought a product from a call funnel that they didn't like, or whatever reason, for whatever reason, like maybe they're just not converting with the call funnel. this is an opportunity to present this as something completely new, a webinar that they've maybe never tried or maybe never, attended one before. And it's a great opportunity to convert people who otherwise wouldn't convert on a call funnel, right? And lastly is we get to speed up the sales cycle, right? So webinars are fantastic from getting people from cold to warm really fast, because if you think about what we're doing, obviously they're opting into this thing, they're going to get a significant amount of emails, which I'll show you later, just nurturing them and like educating them, etc. And then obviously the webinar presentation, it's 90 minutes of time of essentially content that they're consuming from you, which is super powerful to speed up the sales cycle and get them warm, right? It builds a lot of trust. It just builds a lot of confidence in the product, especially if you know how to present things the right way, like I fucking do, right? So, anyways, that's why webinars crush. Here's kind of the process I'm going to lay out in this video. It's very straightforward, but it's going to be everything front to back. So we're going to be talking about promotion, how to promote this thing, kind of landing page best practices, and what I do for my landing pages that convert really well, the actual Webby, and everything you do in between to get a really good show up rate. How to retain people on a webinar so they stay for the whole thing, how to convert people so you have very high rate of people who actually purchase or book a car or whatever at the end, and then also sales team best practices and post webinar what to do to just maximize the fuck out of how much money you're getting out of one of these things, right? The first thing we're going to talk about is promotion, right? How do we actually promote a webinar and get people to sign the fuck up for it and get a ton of signups, ton of registrants, and get things going that way, right? So the goal here is very simple, right? The goal here is to literally pull every lever we can to tell people about the webinar. Once again, for the most part, this thing should sell itself. It's a free class, right? It's a really enticing sort of offer. Like, hey, show up to this free TikTok shop class, or I'm going to be showing you X, 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 and X. Like, who wouldn't want to do that if you're interested in TikTok shop? So our goal is really, we just have to advertise it. We just have to literally tell people that this thing exists and when it's happening. Beat a dead horse here, but it's like, once again, it's a free class. People should want to show up to it. So simply all you need to do is just tell them it exists, tell them when it's happening, utilize some urgency, some scarcity, some like copywriting best practices, and just get them to sign up. Like, it's really simple and you don't need to overcomplicate it. Right now, I also want to tell you about a very important concept that I learned the hard way, as far as promotion window and budget allocation, right? And it doesn't matter whether you're running ads or not. Budget could just be like, how much organic promo are you doing and how to allocate it, right? So let's say you're doing a 10-day promo, right? Which is typically what I like to stick to. 7 to 10-day promos I've seen work the absolute best. Anything after that and your show rate is going to dramatically change, which or dramatically drop, which is not ideal, right? So let's say you're doing a 10-day promo. Okay. That means out of all, this, let's say this is the promotion window right here, right? You want to allocate about 80% of your promotion budget within the 4 days leading up to the actual webinar. Okay, this is where 80% of your promotion budget should go. So let's say you're running ads and you have 10K to spend on a webinar. You should spend 8 grand within the 4 days closest to the webinar. And let's say you're organically, like, let's say, I'll show you how to promote it, but let's say you're doing emails or not necessarily emails, but let's say you're doing like Instagram stories, right? Like, 80% of the Instagram stories that you post should be in the 4 days leading up to the webinar. Okay, this keeps your show rate really, really high, and especially if you're a little bit of a beginner at like emails and like the other show rate best practices. This is a really good way to keep your show rate high. This this kind of 20% right here, in my opinion, is obviously like, it's good to start the promo then, but like, especially if you're running ads, this is a great like test window, right? Just to like launch some ads with low spend, make sure the creatives are good, make sure there's no issues, make sure you can just test things out and see how things go, and then make some changes before you actually nuke the promotion budget and like really promote this thing. But yeah, like, I would make your announcement post probably 7 days out, maybe 10 days out. And then, like, once again, 80% of the promotion should happen within 4 days leading up to the webinar. You could get like 40%, 50% show rates if you do this properly. So now let's talk about, how do we actually promote the webinar? Like, I'm literally going to show you every single way to promote this. So number one, your best friend is going to be Instagram story sequences. Okay. Like, Instagram stories are the best to convert your Instagram audience. It's just because like they see content of you, they're continually getting nurtured, they follow you, etc. And Instagram stories, especially if you have a really engaged audience, you get a ton of story views. Really good place to make announcements like, hey, I'm doing a free class, etc. Right? So I keep these posts to 3 to 5 slides max. If you do like 10, I've seen people do like 10 slide story sequences, and I just like can't imagine. Like, yes, you're getting more quality people there, but the drop off is going to be significant on each slide. So here's a simple framework that's crushed for me that you guys could take away and copy and paste right now. So like, bro, let's say you do a 4 slide story sequence. Start off just flashing some student results, then just say, hey, sell them on the opportunity. Like, yo, these people, all made this amount of money because they started day trading. They did this with being a complete beginner, had no experience, all this kind of shit. Then just announce the webinar. It's like, hey, if you want to be like these people, I'm doing this free class. Here's what we're going to cover. Kind of tease it, and then boom, we have limited spots. The signups are only available for this amount of time, etc. Sign up now. Boom. Like that. You don't have to overcomplicate this kind of shit, right? Once again, I don't hire graphic designers. I write all the copy I write all the copy myself, and I just like put it on a fucking thing on an Instagram story. And it's the most important thing. Like the copy is really what's going to convert. I'm not super Jewish about like, oh my God, we need to. I've seen people like go crazy with the story sequences, and it's not a bad thing to do, but like, once again, kind of unnecessary in my opinion, right? So if you have sick graphics, that's great, like good for you. But in my experience, it hasn't really made that much of a difference for an organic promo. For a 7 day promo, I typically do about 3 of these during the week. Once again, maybe I'm doing one 7 days out or 6 days out, and maybe the next two are going to be like the day before and 3 days out. Right? You see how like 80% of the fucking promotion is going to happen closer to the webinar, right? So keep in mind once again, the first one you post though will get the most amount of signups by far. So just expect that. And like obviously you kind of want to keep that as close to the webinar as possible. But you'll likely see a decent drop off after that, which is completely normal. And so like don't trip if that happens, right? Number two, how to promote this is an email promo sequence. So these crush. So I typically do a 7 day promo sequence, sending them an email every single day, 7 days out, leading up to the webinar to get signups. Not really much to say here. Once again, this is where your email copywriting skills are going to come into play. And so here's like a quick framework that I follow. First email, just announce it. Second email, I like to do a story email, just telling them like the creator story and selling them on like them as like a coach. And then I CTA it. Then sell them on the opportunity, like sell them like why TikTok shop is the next best thing, or why freelance brand scaling, whatever the case is the sickest business model right now. Do it like a results or like a case study email, and then just your last 3 emails are pretty straightforward. Like say whatever you got to say, but it's like, hey, the webinar is happening in 3 days, the free class is happening in 3 days. Sign up, right, or get left in the fucking dust. So third is I do obviously we promote this through SMS. So obviously the copy here is very basic, like like here's this free class, etc. But what I like to do here, especially if you have an SMS limit or you have a huge CRM where like you just can't just blast everybody, is I like to hit the people who made it furthest in the sales process with the actual text blasts, right? And so here's a good example of like if your pipeline and your CRM is super organized, you can filter like all your no shows, people who showed interest, they booked a call, right? Like they made it pretty far in the sales process, but for whatever reason they didn't show up. This is a good way to re-engage them, right? And so like this is a creative thing you can do. You can also hit people who hopped on calls and didn't close, people who canceled, rescheduled, etc. And that way you're getting the most interested people that were right there. Once again, you're getting the most interested people to book back on, which is super sick. So like I said, these people have shown the most interest by far. They didn't convert for whatever reason. A Webby is a great place to recapture their attention and get them back on the board. Also, hitting up unresponsive or dead leads is going to be a move here, right? So if you have a ton of leads who just haven't replied to like the initial text message you sent, Webbies are once again an attraction offer and they're great reply bait, right? So if you have leads that you haven't been able to revive or contact in a while, presenting them with a free class, like it's something very enticing like this, and it's super like not salesy. It's like, hey, we're doing this free thing, pull up if you want. Great fucking way to get some responses, okay, and get them kind of like re-engaged, right? The fourth way to promote this is through ads. In my opinion, you should target a $5 to $12 cost per registrant. Obviously, you'll be more on the $12 side of things if it's cold traffic. You can be lower than $5 if it's not cold traffic. This is super dependent on really three things. Your CPMs, your link click through rate, and the conversion rate on your opt in page are going to be what makes up your cost per registrant, right? And so here's a pro tip too, is load up a bunch of diverse creatives and let Meta cook. Right. Obviously, there's been some recent updates to Meta's algorithm and just how they distribute ads. And so what's working extremely well is take some of your creators like best organic content, also script some like very direct response creatives yourself, load them up as you can see, like I did here. You can just load them up. You can just load them up in a campaign in an ad set, as you can see here. And like, bro, just let Meta cook. Meta will distribute the spend to the ads that are most probable to convert people, right? So as you can see on this campaign, I spent about 8.2K so far. And cold traffic, by the way, this is broad targeting. And you can see we're getting about a $4 cost per registrant, which is super fucking good, right? So we've already had thousands of people sign up to this webinar, and that's once again, I did was load up a fuckload of creatives, and I was just like, yo, figure it out, Meta. You like, it's an AI platform, right? So it's really good at this kind of stuff. Fifth is obviously you can change out the organic links for the creator, like literally changing out the link in bio and having them post reels. Like, if you change out your link in your bio to just the webinar, and let's say you have a reel pop off, get a couple 100,000 views, you can get like thousands of registrants from that, right? And so you could probably do mini chat reels as well, but I don't have experience with those. Like, I don't really have my creators, maybe I should. I don't really have my clients post videos and be like, comment webinar for a free guide. Like, that's not really what I do. Maybe you could do a DM CTA in the bio, but this is something that can work extremely well, especially if the client is posting content that's generating a fuckload of views. Like, let's say like Shelby Sapp or whoever, right? Like, if when their reels get multiple hundreds of thousands of views every time, you're this is going to be really effective to get registrants. Six is a manual sales team, obviously. So this is just kind of a small thing, but if your sales team, whenever they're talking to leads who come through the call funnel and they're just low intent, or they need more nurture or education, whatever, you can just redirect them to the webinar, right? This should be barbecue fucking chicken. So let's say your setter calls a lead and the guy's just like, oh, I just was curious. I was just checking this out. I'm not really sure if I want to do this or what. Just tell them to pull up to the webinar. Easy way to get some registrants. Okay, next is the landing page. So I'm going to show you exactly what I do for my landing pages. I'll show you examples and how you can, get a really good opt-in rate on these pages, right? So I keep these stupid simple, right? There's no need to overcomplicate this. I would say biggest things to include, make sure you tell people that it's an actual fucking free class so they know what it is. Like, if people hit your page and they think it's a call funnel or something different, that's a problem. Two, countdown timers have worked really well. They just add extra urgency to the page. So that's really effective. Three is your headline just needs to be centered around the big promise of the webinar, right? Those two things need to be aligned. So if your webinar is how to make 10K a month with growth operating, then make that like the actual fucking headline you see here, right? Next is make sure the date and time is clearly visible on the page. This should help with your show rate, but like, once again, some people don't do this, and then like, how the fuck are people supposed to know when when this thing is? Next is I like to put a who am I section. So just kind of who is the creator, what you're going to be teaching them, etc. And then finally a what you'll learn section, right? And once again, super simple. So pro tip, make sure at this point, especially for most of you guys, like your clients, if most of your traffic's coming from mobile, make sure this shit is mobile optimized, right? Like, so many people don't do that, and it'll just chalk your opt-in rate. So once again, as you can see here, I have free event. I have a basic headline with a big promise, some objection handling here. This is a timer that expired. Obviously, this is an old webinar, but this is where the timer would go. I have the date clearly visible. As you can see here, here's what you'll learn section with some good bullets right here. So once again, keep it super simple. Your target here for organic, like warm traffic, should be 30 to 50%. especially if you're doing like story sequences. I've had it be like 60% if that's where the majority of your traffic's coming from. If you're running ads to cold traffic, you should target at 20-30%, right? So like for that campaign I showed you above, I think I had like a 27% opt-in rate, which is pretty solid. Next is going to be your confirmation page. On here, I just put a nice little video, confirmation video, just hyping them up, getting them super excited for the webinar, and telling them kind of the next steps. That way, you'll see in a second. But here, just letting them know, in multiple ways that they're going to be getting emails. So to check their email. Here's also what I do. I'll literally put a screenshot of the email, and that keeps the open rate of the email super, super high. And so just saying, keep a lookout for my emails. Next is this is super saucy. So I like to utilize the software adamant.com, right? And what this does is in one click, like after they click this button, they can add the event to their calendar, right? And so, it also sends them a notification before, and I've seen this help show rates tremendously, right? So I think you should invest in adamant.com. It's really good. I'm not obviously not like affiliated with them or anything like that, but I've done this for all my webinars, and it's worked extremely well. Also do is I tell them to join a free Telegram group, right? And so I like Telegram because it gets them off like platform, off SMS, off email, etc. We now have them on this completely separate platform. In Telegram, you can do cool things like send voice notes. You're running into SMS problems. You have an SMS limit, right? Telegram's another great place that now they're off platform. There's no limits on Telegram that you can send them resources and things like that. It's very personalized, which I like. Now let's talk about show rate best practices. Okay, big lever you're going to pull here is your email sequence. Like your email sequence is going to be everything. So I do about 2 emails a day, every single day leading up to the actual webinar. So let's say someone opts in 7 days out. That means you're going to need 14 emails for them to receive. And the goal with these emails is like, here's a major key is just curiosity inducing copy, right? Like you want to, I'll show you a couple structures, I have for emails in a second, but like curiosity is everything, right? So you're going to be, educating them. You're going to be objection handling them. You're going to be getting them really excited to show up, and then like kind of leaving them on a cliffhanger of like, oh, you got to pull up to the webinar to actually figure out what the fuck this is, right? So here's a good example is like this email was centered around like we're doing AI videos live on Sunday, right? So it's tied into the webinar. And like all I'm doing is hyping up like, oh, we're going to show you this exact method about AI videos and how it generated John $50,000, Jimmy $10,000, Jason $100,000, whatever the case is. And then like at the end, it's like, you have to show up to the webinar to actually fucking see this, and as you can see here, it says like there's a low send volume just because I had to remake this one time. So also I like to write emails that sell the opportunity, right? So, whatever your opportunity is, whether it's trading, drop shipping, SMMA, whatever the case is, clearly explaining the opportunity. So what even is it? And selling them on it, like why they can make money from it. Why are they going to benefit by learning about it? Right. Super important. And this will help you increase your show rate as well, because if you're running a fucking free day trading class, it helps if people are actually sold on the idea that day trading is the vehicle that they want to take them to millionaire status, right? Busting objections, right? So, one objection that someone might face for this offer is like, can I do this without showing my face? So I literally just made that the subject line of the email. And then in the email, I'm explaining how, yes, you can do it without showing your face. Like, and then once again, if maybe someone's thinking about showing up to the webinar, but that's like their biggest concern. Now this is handled right beforehand. Next is a SMS and Telegram sequence. So I usually do 2 to 3 leading up to like the day of the webinar and the day before the webinar. And then I'll do 3 to 4 on the actual day of the webinar, right? So I'll do like in the morning of, I'll send them a reminder, maybe, like 4 hours out, maybe 1 hour out, and then when we're actually go live, right? And there's different ways to structure this, but what you have to do here, pro tip, and I've learned this the hard way, is check your SMS limit, okay? Because you will fucking fry yourself if your SMS limit is 2,000, right? And you have let's say you have 5,000 registrants. You send a text blast on the morning of the webinar, right? You hit your SMS limit for the day, and guess what? Your text that says, "Hey, we're going to go live," or "We're going live, here's the link to join," that text won't send anymore. So make sure you fucking check your SMS limit. I've learned this the hard way. I've had consulting clients like do this wrong. And it's something that people just forget, right? Especially if you're not like that technical with the SMS. So next is the actual slides and the day of the webinar, right? So I've taught you how to promote the webinar. I've taught you how to get people to show up for the actual webinar. And so, now we need to actually nail Webby Day and what that looks like, right? So first, let's start with the slides. Actually, first, let's start with the tech. So I use Zoom for all my webinars. I know a ton of people who use Webinar Jam. I've tried Webinar Jam. I've faced so many tech issues on there. Kind of a nightmare in my opinion. Maybe I was fucking up, maybe I was doing something wrong, but Zoom has worked tremendous for me. Zoom webinars, they have their own webinar platform. And yeah, I don't really want to switch off Zoom. I like it. There's just a little bit less data tracking on there, right? So, okay, big major key with the fucking slides, okay? About to drop some fucking sauce here. There's three things you need to sell people on, okay? Actually, shout out to the late great Ben Bader. I remember watching a video of his, when I was like on my come up. I forget when this was. This was a while ago, over a year ago, right? And I remember him saying this, and this was before I'd ever done a webinar. And like after running a significant amount of webinars, I can promise you this is absolutely true, right? And so I think he was the first person I heard say it, right? Maybe it was Russell Brunson where he got it from, I don't know. But shout out to him. And here's kind of what we have to do, right? So there's three things we have to sell people on. First, we have to sell people on the actual creator, right? And so if at the end you're going to pitch, especially like a coaching program from the creator, or you're going to pitch, just like the creator and the client is the one giving them this information. So why would they believe any of it if they're not sold that the creator is the person who can take them where they want to go? And the way I do that is with a section of the webinar, which is just centered around their story, right? So I'm not going to get into like how to structure a story and how to do proper storytelling. But here's an example of like, it's kind of like a rags to riches story, and it positions the opportunity as the thing that took them from rags to riches, right? So like example, how, the story could be how I went from a broke, McDonald's worker to a millionaire with day trading, right? And the whole premise of the story is that like I was down bad, then I found trading, and this was my way out. And now I went through all these trials and tribulations, and now I'm a millionaire with what I'm about to show you in the webinar. It also just builds intrigue, right? So super important sale you need to make. Second is you need to sell them on the opportunity itself, like I talked about earlier. So, you need to sell them on, if you're doing day trading or whatever the case is, whatever the opportunity is, you need to sell them on it, right? And so here's like a good example slide of, I'm telling them about like this strategy does not require having prior experience. You don't need a ton of time. You don't need to show your face. Zero startup costs. It's one of the most beginner friendly business models right now. And this, ICP I was talking to was a bunch of beginners, right? So it's like, you could see how that could sell somebody that, hey, this might be for me. I kind of like this thing, right? Next is you need to sell the audience on themselves. Okay. So the only thing that's going to hold people back at this point is internal limiting beliefs that, like, for whatever reason, like people will see the greatest thing ever. They might see the greatest, fucking day trading strategy, whatever the case is. They see that it prints money, but they're still skeptical. And then they have this like everybody has these internal limiting beliefs of like, maybe I'm just like a fucking, maybe I'm retarded. Like maybe I just won't be successful with this, whatever, for whatever reason. So the way we combat that is through case studies, like throwing a massive amount of social proof at them. And pro tip is to layer this in throughout the slides. Okay, so don't just do like one section of all your case studies. After, I'll show you an example of this in a second, but layer it in throughout the whole presentation. Here's just one slide during the story section that's like, a fuckload of social proof from a bunch of people from a bunch of different demographics, right? So like I said, pro tip, layer in social proof throughout the presentation. So, like here's a good example of, after like in the story section of this webinar, I'm putting a slide in that's just quick, right? We don't go over these individually. That's like, other people started to see result too. And it's all student testimonials, even though we haven't even introduced the program yet. The key with social proof though is show don't tell. Okay. You need to show people like actual fucking screenshots, bank statements, like the clients actually saying it themselves, etc. Like this is a tweet from one of the creators, like, best students, right? You need to show them, not just tell them or put like a piece of text up that says, oh, this person made this amount of money. Because, okay, trust is at an all-time low. People are so skeptical. It's so easy to fake results, fake case studies, and fake all this shit. And people, like I said, people are looking for reasons to not believe you. So once again, show don't tell. Because I like to put engagement slides in the webinar. So like here's a good example of like we're engaging the audience. They're actively participating. Shout out active participation. Like that's fucking what we need to do here. They're actively participating, because I said, hey, need everybody to drop a one in the chat if you're hyped for this. Then we open up the chat, and then boom, you see all these ones flood in. They're engaged. They're actually watching the presentation. How the fuck would you expect somebody to retain them throughout the whole presentation if they're not actively doing shit, right? They need to be taking notes. They need to be whatever. And I'll show you that in a second, right? Once again, show, don't tell. This applies for the actual value part of the webinar as well. So like whatever you're explaining in the free class, whatever value you're giving, like it's some SMMA strategy on how to land clients. Show them actual examples. Like these are example videos for this client in a TikTok shop niche, is show them actual examples of whatever the fuck you're talking about. It's so easy, so much easier for people to get like a visual on, and actually visualize themselves making these videos or visualize themselves outreaching to clients, whatever the case is. It's so much easier for them to actually see it for themselves if you're showing them and not just telling them what to do. For retention, to get people to stay throughout the entire webinars, there's a couple things I utilize, right? So I utilize giveaways. So here's an example of a $500 cash giveaway that's at the end of the presentation, right? To get people to stay till the end. Also, Q&A has worked extremely well for me. That if they stay to the end, the creator will do this entire Q&A for them and they'll get their questions personally answered. And then the third thing is, to enter the giveaway, they have to submit a picture of the notes they took throughout the presentation. Okay. And so this is key because once again, they're going to be actively participating. They have to actively participate and they have to stay to the end in order to get the cash giveaway, right? And the principle behind this is very simple. Yes, you're giving away $500, but the amount of money you'll make in return, it's a positive investment because the amount of money you'll make in return by people staying and participating throughout the whole webinar is significantly higher. And so for conversion and getting people to actually convert, when you pitch people on the webinar, this is 80%. You could argue this is 90% your offer, right? Like your offer and how you structure it. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. Your offer is going to be the thing that actually gets people to convert. Like it's really nothing else other than how the client pitches, right? Because obviously it's sales at the end of the day. Like the conviction the client has in the voice, how fucking firm they are. Social proof is also a big thing, like how much you layer that in throughout the pitch will ultimately determine how well this thing converts, right? And so here's how I structure my offers for maximum conversion, right? And shout out to Jason Fladlian, another Jason, holy goat, Jason. We're both named Jason, but anyway, shout out to fucking Jason Fladlian, because he's where I got this from, right? And this has worked extremely well. So really, there's 5 components of a banger offer, and you present them in this order. The fact that you present them in this order is what boosts conversions. Like it's super persuasive. So first, what I do is I start off with the core offer. Okay, this is just the most basic form of the offer. It's the most basic shit ever. Okay, so this will be like, hey, you get access to like this many group calls, you get access to this course content and this community access, right? I keep this like very dry and bare bones. And what I do is I add a fuckload, like at least 5 typically, juicy bonuses, okay, that I've removed from the core offer. And I make these the most enticing things possible. And they're only available if people convert on like live on the webinar. Okay. So this is an incentive for people to convert. And so are these things. I'll show you that in a second. But this will boost your conversions a ton. These bonuses should be really like the things that they want the most. So let's say like this is a coaching program, right? if people want one-on-one calls the most, they just want one-on-one calls with the creator, and you're able to sell that, layer that in as a bonus. Like, hey, just for you showing up live on this call today and actually participating, we're gonna drop you this insane bonus. Well, you'll get a one-on-one call with Shelby Sapp or whoever the fuck it is, right? And you do that for all the most enticing things of the offer, right? So this is like how good your bonuses will affect your conversion so much. Also, your risk reversal. Okay, so whether you do a money back guarantee, you don't necessarily have to do that. Whether you do a 7 day money back guarantee, or just like if they don't hit a certain result, whatever the case is, risk is the number one reason people won't convert. Okay, so if you can eliminate risk, obviously the offer is going to convert significantly better. Discounted pricing too. I tie this into the core offer. So after you've then presented them this core offer, you're like, hey, that's the core offer. Here's all these free bonuses just for you showing up tonight, and we're making it risk free because you can get your money back. Then boom, fourth is you're saying, and on top of that, cherry on top is you're going to get $1,000 off your purchase or whatever discount you do, $500 off the top of your purchase. When you only if you purchase tonight, right? Or only if you book a call tonight, right? And so this will tying this into like only if you book a call tonight will massively increase your conversions. Lastly, obviously, to get people to convert, you need urgency and scarcity. So limited spots. Hey, this offer is only available while the webinar is live. As soon as we go, as soon as we shut this bitch down, the offer's done, right? So if you want to convert, if you're 40% interested, you got to go right now. Also, pro tip for conversions is an easy to type URL. Okay, so look at this shit. Actually like purchasing a domain if you need to, setting up a URL that is so easy for them to type while also putting the link in the chat will help you boost conversions. And you can put this on every slide throughout the pitch. That way it's just there. It's just there. It's just there, right? And then at any point when they want to convert, they can literally type in www.joincc.net or something easy like that, and it'll pull up the same website, right? So I've actually seen this help tremendously, or else I wouldn't be telling you this. Coming to a home stretch here is sales team math. The thing with webinars is that obviously you're going to get a fuckload of calls booked at once. By the way, I've seen call booking webinars work probably the best. Direct to checkout webinars have not worked significantly well for me, but call booking ones have. And so whenever you're doing this, and obviously if you're selling high ticket, right, and people book a call, you're going to get a lot of calls booked at once, right? And so how do you actually know how many sales reps you need, how many closers and setters you need prior to going into the webinar? Okay, so this is what we call sales team math, or like industry standard KPIs, right? So for every however many registrants you get, like let's say you get a 25% show rate. Okay, that's very common. Could be higher, could be lower. Let's say you get 70% of them to stay till the pitch, right? That's where these numbers are coming from, as you can see here. And then let's say 20% of them book a call, right? You need to run this math based on how many registrants you're going to get, or how much you project, right? So for every 1,000 registrants that you're going to likely book 36 calls, right? If you book 36 calls and your booking window should only be 3 days out. I forgot to mention that. Your booking window should only be 3 days out to get the highest show rate. Let's say this is day 1, day 2, and day 3. That means one closer can probably take maximum, with them being full energy, ready to go, 6 to 8 calls, right? So let's say like your closers can only take 6 calls a day. Then that means you need, you're going to have 6, 6, 6. So you're going to need 2 closers, right? This is just basic sales team math, right? Because each closer can take 6 calls per day for 3 days. Okay. Very simple. Now, let's say you're running a fat webinar and you have, I've had webinars with 30,000 registrants, believe it or not. I've had webinars with 30,000 registrants and, almost like 8,000, 9,000 people live on the webinar. Like, you're going to need significantly more sales reps and closers. Okay. So you have to run this math and figure out how many registrants you're projected to get. And sometimes it can be hard to tell. I get it, but do your best. And you need to hire these people, train them, and ramp them up before the actual webinar. but not least is post Webby. Don't sleep on post Webby. Okay, you can get a significant more amount of conversions post webinar, and I'll show you how. So first thing is you need to create a replay funnel. Okay, so obviously, if you're not a retard, your webinar is going to be recorded, and so what you need to do is create a replay funnel that tells them that the replay is going to expire in about 3 to 4 days after the webinar. Okay, make it super simple. The headline, the actual webinar, and then a CTA. I don't put anything under it. To have that, you can then create your post Webby email sequence, which this will get you a significant more amount of conversions. I've seen from this post Webby email sequence that gets sent to all the registrants, I've seen 25% boost in conversions, right? So if we book 100 calls from the webinar, I've literally seen like us get 125 more calls booked just by having a dialed in post Webby email sequence. All right, so what I do in this email sequence, which is 10 emails, by the way, 10 emails over the course of about 12 days, so they're getting almost an email every day, is for the first 3 to 4 emails. As you can see here, I'm just promoting the replay funnel. So I'm just sending them here like, hey, if you missed it, here's the replay. It's expiring soon. It's expiring soon. Urgency, scarcity, watch the fucking replay. Boom, 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 right? For the next 6 emails, I'm sending them direct to booking. Okay? So I'm sending them after the replay expires, that amazing offer we created earlier that's irresistible, right? Is we're now putting that in the email copy. Like, here's the offer. It's irresistible. We're running this discount for this limited time. Get in now. And you're going to handle objections throughout these emails, etc. But if you do this properly, you should see a 25% boost in conversions. It's actually insane. I didn't think like email could be that powerful, but it really is. Right now, bit of sauce, okay, before we get out of here is, and this is just super saucy, is running a group Q&A call. Okay, so obviously, like, let's say you run a decent sized webinar and you book 100 calls. Okay, if you have like solid show rates, like you'll have a 70% show rate, right? But that still means 30 calls no showed. Okay. And a decent percentage of those, about 50% of the calls that did book, won't even close. Okay. And so with that, what you're going to do is you're going to invite them to a group Q&A call with the creator. Okay. So you're going to say, hey, I understand you no showed. I understand you didn't close for whatever reason. You can have a sales reps reach out to them. Hey, fucking Shelby Sapp, TJR, whoever, is doing a free Q&A call just for people who hopped on calls and people who showed up to the webinar, and you're invited to it. Like, here's the meeting link. It's happening on this date at this time, right? I typically do these 7 days after. Okay. On that call, the creator can sit there and just answer their final questions, whatever to stop them from getting over the line. So if they didn't close for, let's say, they didn't close because they had trust issues, like, is this a scam? I don't know. Hearing from the creator, hearing from TJR himself, like, yo, this is a legit program, whatever. We'd love to have you inside. That could be something that is a huge lever to get them over the line. Right. And so this is just a great way. It's free. It's once again, it's a group Q&A. It's almost like a pop-up, like, second webinar. It's a great way to capitalize and make the most amount of money. Right. So what you'll see is obviously when you're running a webinar, your revenue is going to be flat during the promotion window unless you're running a call funnel too. Then obviously on the webinar day, you're going to get a huge spike in calls booked and revenue, right? And then guess what? Instead of it just flatlining and dropping off, you can get another little spike with a dialed in replay funnel, dialed in email sequence, and a good group Q&A call, right? And like, it's like, this is how you're going to make the most amount of money right here. And so anyways, boys, I hope you fucking enjoyed this video. Back at the OG setup for now because it's the holidays. Here's my Instagram. I recommend you guys go give me a follow there. I post reels there. They're bangers. An offer owner, or you sell any sort of info product, etc., hit me up on IG, or there will probably also be a link in the description for you to book a call if you are interested in me helping you do these kind of things. If you're a growth operator or anything like that, DM me on Instagram. If you are looking to get consulted on like how to run a webinar or whatever, only for people who have clients. I never work with complete beginners. So if you have a big client, maybe you just landed one and you want some help just to make sure it goes well, I do offer consulting as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will catch y'all in the next one.